Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Jurassic Pyramid. A pyramid from the days of the dinosaurs has allegedly been discovered by a scientist in Ukraine. The supposed pyramid was uncovered in Crimea, discovered completely by accident. Vitaly Go was the one who found the remains of the structure underground, very deep underground. The pyramid once stood about 150 feet high, and yet the entire thing was hidden under thousands of tons of soil. This suggests it had been covered by the shifting sands of the Earth as our planet went through volatile changes over the past 60 or 70 million years. Go believes it was built during the time of the dinosaurs by an early race of primitive humans. Keep in mind that this discovery has not been confirmed by any reliable source or discussed by any renowned scientist. The story has been floating around online, so it's impossible to say for sure what's true and what isn't. Go also allegedly discovered the mummified remains of a small creature within the foundation of the pyramid. The suggestion here is that the mummy either belonged to a previously unknown type of human or came from another world entirely. If the discovery is real, it will flip everything we know about human history on its head. It will mean that humans didn't evolve as recently as people thought. Instead, human beings may have existed alongside the dinosaurs, but our advancement was seriously postponed due to the asteroid that killed most of life on Earth. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 9. The female pope. Researchers from Australia recently announced in a press release that they have made a major discovery that could change history as we know it. They believe that they have found proof that a female pope existed in the Middle Ages. This is something that has been denounced as a myth by the Vatican. As far as church officials are concerned, no woman has ever held a position of power within their organization. And yet these researchers have found proof that Pope Joan may have been a real person. According to legend, Pope Joan disguised herself as a man in 9th century Rome. She then rose to the position of deacon, continued rising through the hierarchy of the church, and ultimately became the pope. Legend also has it that one day she had to stop a procession to give birth, much to the shock and horror of everyone in Rome. The female pope was then arrested, thrown in jail, and executed. Her name was officially removed from the list of popes, and the story was buried in the dusty corridors of history. No one has ever been able to confirm the legend until now. Researchers at Flinders University, Australia, were studying coins from the 1850s when they identified what appears to be the name Pope Johann Anglicus. This was her fake name during her time as pope. There is no historical record, and yet the name is very clearly written on these coins from the Middle Ages. They appear to be proof of a vast conspiracy by the church to cover up the woman who lied her way to the papal throne. Number 8. The Jar Baby. Archaeologists in Israel unearthed a jar from 3,800 years ago. The jar contained an unexpected surprise, the skeletal remains of a baby. And while it's not totally unheard of for infants to be buried in jars thousands of years ago, it is a mystery as to why. Yoav Arbel, an archaeologist with the Israel Antiquities Authority, was one of the researchers behind the discovery. He believes the jar may have been a kind of representation for the womb. It may have been a way for ancient people to feel like they were returning the deceased infant back into its mother or into Mother Earth. In other words, it was a symbolic gesture of protection. The jar was discovered in the ancient city of Jaffa, which dates back about 4,000 years. It was one of the first port cities in the world, a place that seen continuous human occupation for around 2,900 years. The discovery of the baby in the jar is reshaping how we view the ancient people who lived here. While the burial of a baby in a jar may seem strange and barbaric to us, to them it was the most respectable burial possible. The truth is that even in ancient times, people were not all that different from us. Researchers also found an ancient Greek mosaic from the 4th century AD in Jaffa with an inscription reading, "This is it." Zvi Greenhut, head of the publication department at the IAA, says in essence it means, this is life, like this is it, and that death is everyone's shared destiny. Clearly, people also had a solid sense of humor back then. And now for number 7. But first, it's shout-out time! I want to say a big thank you to Mark Heinrichs and Dawn Patterson for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about amazing discoveries. Number 7. The Temple of the Watchers. The mysterious Temple of the Watchers, located in Turkey, is a stone temple complex that was built 7,000 years before Stonehenge. The temple is more famously known as Gobekli Tepe. It is the most compelling archaeological site in the world by a long shot. The temple was built at the end of the last ice age, at a time before any other megalithic structures were made. Some of the stones used to build the monoliths here are as heavy as 15 tons. Everything at the temple points to a highly advanced civilization, and yet it predates Egypt, Sumer, Babylon, and all the other famous early cultures of the world. The temple is 12,000 years old, built when woolly mammoths were still around. Many consider it the oldest example of stone architecture in the world. There are some who think it may have been left behind by the Watchers, discussed in the Forbidden Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is one of the non-canonical biblical texts. Within the book, Enoch describes what the world was like before the Great Flood. When God first made people, he sent a group of 200 angels known as Watchers to look after them. However, these Watchers became obsessed with human females, bred with them, and created abominations known as Nephilim. God was so disgusted that he sent a flood to eradicate all living things in the world. In biblical terms, this happened around 12,000 years ago. If the story of the Watchers is connected to Gobekli Tepe, it could mean the temple is the only remaining structure from before God flooded the planet. Number 6. The Tomb of Jesus. Scientists from the National Technical University of Athens recently confirmed that the tomb of Jesus Christ is a lot older than previously believed. The tomb of Jesus Christ is believed to be the very real place where Jesus Christ was buried after his crucifixion. It's located underneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, in a primitive limestone cave that predates everything else on the site. In fact, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was built over Jesus' burial place and the site of his crucifixion on purpose. This makes it arguably the holiest place in Christianity. But up until now, archaeological experts believed the tomb only dated to the Crusader period, about 1,000 years ago. When the new team ran new tests using the most advanced technology, their results were different. According to the report from National Geographic, scientists dated the tomb at 1,700 years old. It was used around the year 345 AD. Of course, this is still quite a while after Jesus died, allegedly around the year 30 or 33. Most historical accounts suggest the Romans were the ones who enshrined the tomb in 326. This was during the rule of Constantine I, who converted the Roman Empire to Christianity and began building monuments to Christ. But what does all of this mean? Does it confirm that Jesus of Nazareth was buried in the limestone cave? The answer is no. It does not 100% confirm the site of Jesus' death and resurrection, but it does make it more realistic, officially placing the tomb closer to the time when Jesus lived and died. Number 5. Neanderthal inbreeding. Dutch researchers may have just solved the mystery of what happened to the Neanderthals. Neanderthals are believed to be our closest genetic relatives. We know that Homo sapiens lived alongside them for several thousand years and made it. We know this because we still have Neanderthal DNA in our bodies. In fact, Neanderthals were in Europe before Homo sapiens. We technically invaded their territory in the years before they went extinct. Throughout the centuries, scientists have put forth all kinds of theories to figure out why Neanderthals disappeared. Studies have shown that they were likely just as intelligent as us, and possibly bigger and stronger too. And yet, for some unknown reason, we came out as the dominant human species. Some think climate change killed the Neanderthals, just like it killed the woolly mammoth. Others believe Homo sapiens killed them on purpose. A team of researchers from multiple universities, led by Chris Vason from Eindhoven University of Technology, think it may have been inbreeding that led to the demise of the Neanderthals 40,000 years ago. They think that due to the small population, consisting of only a few tens of thousands across the world, they couldn't create a suitable bloodline. They had a difficult time mating outside their small gene pools and were forced to have babies with their own family. This may have led to genetic degradation, ultimately wiping out all the Neanderthals. Number 4. Thor's Bifrost. In Norse mythology, the Bifrost was a glimmering rainbow bridge which connected the various realms in existence. For example, if you wanted to travel to Asgard from Midgard, or if you wanted to travel from Niflheim to Helheim, you needed to move along the Bifrost. It was a powerful, ethereal portal guarded over by Heimdall, an Aesir god who watched over the bridge for any sign of incoming enemies. So why are we talking about a magical rainbow bridge from Viking myth? The answer is that a new theory states the Bifrost may not be as mythical as people think. It could be a very real thing known as the Einstein-Rosen Bridge, or what you might call a wormhole. The exact science of wormholes is still being worked out by the best minds we have, but the general idea is that particles can travel through a kind of hole in space-time. The particles cross the event horizon fast enough and escape on the other side of the wormhole tunnel in a completely different time and place. In essence, that's exactly what the legendary Bifrost does. It moves particles from one realm to another. Whether the ancient Norse had access to one of these wormholes is another story entirely. This sits in the same realm of pseudoscience as the pyramids being charging pods for alien ships, or the Inca carving stargates out of stone. That said, is it possible that a super intelligent race of beings from another realm appeared to the Norse centuries ago through wormholes, inspiring the myth of Bifrost? But then again, it's just as likely that no such thing ever happened. Number 3. Hieroglyphs in Australia. Egyptian hieroglyphs may have been found in Australia. If true, it will call into question everything we know about the ancient past, and even humanity itself. It's a theory that's been around for some time. Ancient Egyptian explorers somehow made it across the ocean and settled in Australia thousands of years before the famous Captain Cook. But for whatever reason, these settlers failed, and nobody ever went back. It now looks like we might have evidence of this legendary expedition. In a remote cave in eastern Australia, researchers uncovered mysterious hieroglyphic carvings. There is no known tribe in the area that speaks the strange language or that even used hieroglyphs. They also have no idea what the hieroglyphs seem to say, and yet their existence suggests there was a civilization here that understood the ancient Egyptian system of writing. They may have even spoken the same tongue as the ancient Egyptians. The hieroglyphs were left in the cave before the Pyramid of Giza was built. They appear to be about 5,000 years old. That was long before any civilization could complete transcontinental oceanic voyages. How they got there, who made them, and what they mean is still a mystery. Number 2. Islamic glass. 3 glass fragments were found in an ancient castle in Scotland in the late 1990s. Recently, these fragments of glass became a subject of interest for a community project called Eternal Connections. This project is looking at the mysterious history of Scotland and its Islamic connection. The strange thing about these glass fragments is that they were found in Carlaverock Castle, left there in the 13th century, but they didn't come from Scotland. The fragments of glass were from a vessel crafted either in Syria, Iraq, or Egypt in the 12th or 13th century. One of the fragments was even inscribed with an Arabic word meaning Allah. In the 13th century, glass was not a common commodity. It was used mainly for stained glass windows in cathedrals and churches, not for drinking vessels. Glass didn't come into the household until much more recently, yet these 3 pieces came from a small drinking beaker crafted in an Islamic community. It then somehow made its way across the known world to a rural Scottish castle. Nobody knows how exactly that happened. All we really know is that there was obviously some kind of cultural connection between the Islamic world and Scotland 800 years ago. This connection could change much of what we know about Scotland in the medieval age. Number 1. Ancient mammoth butchering site. Woolly mammoths once walked across most of North America. Even in the dry and desolate wasteland of New Mexico, the massive creatures roamed freely and prospered. This was until about 11,000 years ago, give or take a few thousand years. But what's really interesting is that humans lived alongside these mammoths, and they hunted them. A mammoth butchering site was just found in New Mexico, and researchers say it could be the earliest evidence of human beings in North America. It's come as a major controversial find because the butchering site was used 37,000 years ago. It's generally accepted that humans only arrived in North America about 13,000 years ago. You can see that there is a pretty big discrepancy at work here. If the research team is correct and humans were butchering mammoths at this site almost 40,000 years ago, all our history books will need to be rewritten, and yet they still might be wrong. The issue is that no one has ever been able to determine an exact date for when people arrived in North America. It was thought to be 13,000 years ago, then the number was boosted to 16,000 years ago, and then again to 26,000 years. This butchering site pushes the date back another 10,000 years. And in 2017, a study investigating yet another mammoth bone site near San Diego showed proof of human activity to 130,000 years ago. So, nobody knows what to think anymore. Thanks for watching! Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye!